I'm back with a new episode in the Feminine Queen playlist. I promised you guys we're going to talk about healing the wounded feminine so we can reap the benefits of being in the feminine receive mode in all aspects of our lives. What is the wounded feminine? The wounded feminine refers to the emotional, spiritual, and psychological damage we incurred in our lifetime that have to do with suppressing or neglecting or violating the boundaries of our feminine energy, and mostly has to do with men and money. Men, as they refer to all the men that raised us, all the relationships we saw other women interacting with men as we were growing up, and our own experiences with men as adults. And money has to do with our sense of what we have to do to get by in this world, our sense of survival. So let's get right into it. Today, I'm specifically going to talk just about the dating process and how you can heal in your dating process from the masculine energy and step into the feminine energy. First of all, I want all my queens to understand that the majority of damage you're incurring to your feminine in your dating life has to do with two incorrect concepts. The first concept is this concept that you have to be picked by a man, when in the whole history of humanity, it is always the woman who did the picking. A woman would just sit there would be several men who would be interested in her as she came of age, and it was her who did the picking. Right now, they're trying to convince you via all modalities that you have to go through a process of dating via which a man has to pick you to marry you. The second concept that's highly damaging to women is this sexual expectation of women. Women, whether they're in the mood or not, whether they want to have sex in a relationship or not, are made to feel that they're obligated to please men with their body when they do any kind of dating interaction with a man. You will have to drop both of these concepts or switch both of these beliefs inside your mind, no matter what the society is telling you. And the further you can step from discussing this with people or watching this kind of content, the better it is. Now, please note here that you can't flip completely the opposite and say, dissenter men, we don't need men, and forget about them. That is a very masculine approach to dating. And if you want to take that approach, that is absolutely up to you. But I'm talking to the women right now who want to step into their feminine energy and regain their right to be in receive mode when it comes to their dating life. I'm going to talk about online dating because this is what the majority of people are doing these days. As a woman, your approach to online dating cannot be the same as a man. And so your approach has to be the receiving feminine in the same way it would be in real life, i.e., you are not the one being picked, but you are the one picking. So this implies that in order to do your online dating with the minimum time investment, minimum disappointment, and maximum results, you will have to follow a strict process of interacting with men. Number one thing is you can only deal with men who approach you, who send you a message. Don't even bother going through profiles. Even going through profiles is disappointing. And what you don't understand is there are those high value men that are actually on private mode on these dating apps. And as they're in that private mode, they will find you if your profile is arranged as such that your intention is clear, that you are appealing to them, etc. Now, if you are not the girl for them, it's no problem because you're not going to be rejected. Again, you are not going through their profiles. You're setting up your profile, you're putting your best foot forward, and you are just waiting to pick from the group of men who will interact with you. Number two, and again, I'm speaking about the logistics process. You cannot talk to a man more than 2 to 3 days before setting up a meeting to meet in person. And what I suggest for the first meeting is I suggest you bring up a coffee meeting. Before everybody's gonna jump at me, because I know the majority of women are thinking, oh, he should invest in me, he should give me a high value date. I want you to understand that before a man meets you in person, you are just a number to him. You're just a number, and this is normal. He should be just a number to you. You don't know if the profile is a scam, and he doesn't know either. You don't know if he actually is lying on his profile about his height, about his age, and he doesn't know that either. In fact, there was a viral video that went around that a guy even spoke with a woman on FaceTime, and it turns out she was giving her attractive friend the phone to talk on her behalf. And when he met her, she was a completely different person. So you will have to understand that before you meet somebody in person, they do not owe you anything. They do not owe you any high value date. And in fact, if you're a woman who values yourself, I went through this process myself and I can vouch for this. After my first 3-hour meal, which was a waste of time because it was with a man I knew I couldn't touch, I decided my time is way more valuable than a free meal. And therefore, I decided to vet everyone's profile via a quick coffee meeting. Suggest it yourself. Meet for a coffee, see if he's the height he says he is, see if he's the age he says he is, see his mannerism before you go on a disappointing dinner date. That's yet another rejection or another disappointment, or is going to chip away at your feminine energy in some way or another. Please do not let your pride take over. Do not listen to this high value dinner date propaganda. Basically, you don't know if you want to spend time with that man. You don't know if you want to invest 3 hours in that man. And if you value yourself, you will understand that spending 3 hours at dinner with him and 2 hours driving back and forth, putting on your makeup for a guy that you know you're not going to touch, is a waste of your one most precious asset. As a woman, your most precious asset is your time. I used to suggest this by simply saying my approach is to meet for a quick coffee to validate our profiles, followed by a date later on if we're both interested, and leave it at that. I found that most men were extremely receptive to that. By the way, I got married from online dating, and I think my process is extremely valid. If you both like each other, step 3 is that after your coffee, he needs to ask you out. Do not follow up with him, do not say anything. And it doesn't matter if he contacts you again or not, because again, this is a guy you talk to for 2 to 3 days, and this is a guy that you spend 20 minutes on a coffee meeting with, and this is a guy you don't know if you wanted to see again, and it's normal that his approach was the same. He didn't know if he wanted to see you again, and so if he determines that he doesn't, it's no problem. It's still you doing the picking, it's just from a different subset of men right now. This is how you have to think about it for the minimum amount of disappointment. Now, if he asks you out on a date, he's interested in you. Now, you're excited to meet up with somebody that you like, who you know he likes you. He likes you enough that he asks you out on a date. And yes, this should be a high value date. It's not different than meeting a guy in a grocery store and him asking you out. Yes, you met, you validated each other. You validated each other's energetic system as well. And so if you decide to go on a date with a man, it absolutely has to be a high value date. If he asks you out again and he says, let's go on another walk, that's a no. If he says, I'm making plans for this dinner, again, he's the one who should be making plans. That has to be done within a week of meeting. You will have to cut out from the dating process anyone who doesn't follow this process. Believe me, you will waste way less time and way less energy doing a process with a clear head as if it's a business process than involving yourself emotionally, talking back and forth with men, going nowhere, them ghosting you and rejecting you. Again, it is your prerogative whether or not you want to see this man again. If they don't comply with the process, you haven't lost anything. This process cannot be done with no investment of time and with no investment of emotion, but if you do it my way, you will waste a very small amount of time and a very small amount of disappointment will follow. Remember, the most important part about this is you don't need 100 men that fall into the category of being able to comply with this process and being your type. And you don't need 100 men to fall into that. You only need one. I found him and you will as well. So my next video will go into date 1 and 2 and 3 and so on into the relationship in regards to how to stay in your feminine energy.